Dear neighbors, members of the Catholic Women's League, fellow knights, fathers, brothers and sisters, all. It's been a humbling experience to speak here today about what Good Neighbors Ottawa is all about. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we have a few distinguished guests in our audience. Can everyone in the room please stand up? In preparation for this talk, I asked many seniors, what truly inspires you to get out of bed each and every morning? I was surprised to hear them all answer, my bladder. So much for inspiration. Now imagine there is a no exit sign on each and every door to this room. There it is, I have it, a captive audience. My intention today is to captivate each and every one of you, to inspire your imagination, and finally to motivate you into action in ways that you never thought possible. This achievement will be realized by focusing my effort on 3 agendas. The first is to teach you many new things, explaining its current status quo of these things, and thirdly, advising you on what can be done and how it will be done. Get set for an interesting ride. Open your hearts and minds and listen without prejudice. Forgive me when I'm politically incorrect, and especially when I challenge ideas you've held on to for decades. I'll speak a little about Good Neighbors Ottawa. I co-founded this noble team with Mika Spenceley from the Vanier Community Association's Street Safety Committee. We understand that street crime, homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness, and chronic street homelessness are inextricably linked together. These 4 crises form the square and the root of problems in any of Ottawa's neighborhoods. We've learned that the Attorney General of Ontario has issued directives so that police are dissuaded from arresting drug dealers and are to ignore the open use of opioids and other banned narcotics on our streets. Further, police are ordered not to investigate any property thefts under $1,000 and use extreme discretion in bothering to investigate higher amounts unless weapons are used in the robberies. Victims are told to report such occurrences online. Experience evidences that the vast majority of such reports are never investigated. City Council remains steadfast in underfunding police protection, such that Rideau Vanier Ward 12 is short at least 22 officers, and the 7 inner city wards are near an equal number. This ward, Searville Ward 11, is understaffed by several police protection officers. Thus, criminal activity is increasing exponentially as a lucrative enterprise whereby perpetrators believe that they can operate freely without any enforcement reprisal. That effect is now more acutely affecting suburbs such as Beacon Hill and frustrating neighborhoods everywhere. Thefts from cars and break-ins into homes are now commonplace. The explosion of illicit drug dealing has compromised easy victims, such as the mentally ill and those of low income, especially our street dwellers. Chronic homelessness has never been included as a core responsibility of our city in the same way as garbage collection, road maintenance, and safe drinking water. Our government's failure to provide or encourage an adequate stock of affordable housing is cited as the #1 cause of these problems. Ottawa alone is short 40,000 units of available stock, which actually decreases every year, such that the waiting list for non-immigrants has soared from 2 years to 6 years. Homeless shelter stays are actually mandated to be no more than 4 days so that a client can be properly assessed for individualized care needs and transferred to appropriate facilities to receive the required attention needed. Such facilities barely exist, and the few that do are vastly overwhelmed with a shortage of thousands of care staff, with those who are on duty constantly suffering from burnout, which exacerbates problems further. So, what is one to do about all of this? Where does one start? What needs to be done first? How do we fix it? Things have gotten so far out of hand. The entire establishment and political spectrum provide only one answer. There is nothing we can do. Good Neighbors doesn't believe or agree with this answer, and I hope that you don't either. A year and a half ago, we sat through many committee meetings and met with some major players in our society to hear their best advice. 16 months back, we both decided that an action-based, resident-led group of volunteers needed to hit the streets, then teach and lead our political representatives and our public neighbors into efforts to improve things and bring an end to chronic street homelessness. Now there's a mouthful, eh? It is a magnificent journey. The Good Neighbors team shares the values of empathy, altruism, and compassion for all human beings. Today, I am inviting you all to be a part of our team. We take inspiration from some great thinkers. One is Margaret Mead, who says, "Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has." We're also motivated by Charlie Brown with words from Charles Schulz. To make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be brilliant, rich, beautiful, or perfect. You just have to care. A year ago, we began this journey armed with a few granola bars and a bag of water bottles. Now, Good Neighbors Ottawa is the city's largest volunteer street outreach, serving up to 300 persons on a frontline walkabout every Tuesday night, bringing food, clothing, compassion, and hope to our most vulnerable population. We call such neighbors MVPs. In Christian Catholic tradition, it is apt to call street dwellers our lost flock. This flock did not stray. With closed eyes, we let them go. Consensus on this is now being realized throughout the hierarchy of our archdiocese, along with individual parishes and congregations. Our Catholic Church hasn't been able to do enough or put enough effort into helping Ottawa's homeless street people. It's high time to change the status quo. I'll speak a little bit about Ottawa's chronic homeless street people. Who are they? What are they? How did they come to this state? Three very big questions. Here are but a few concise answers. I'll start with the we and they argument. It's easy to separate ourselves from any flock by using words like they, them, or those. They're over there, not a part of us. Can you see the difference these words make to easily separate us from our brothers and sisters who exist in misery? These subtle yet deceptive descriptions denote us to be superior. These words are not at all inclusive. We are the haves, and they are the have-nots. Let's make the difficult effort in training ourselves to use a different language that is inclusive. Take a stance of equality. Use the word our, ours, mine, my, your, yours instead. These terms bring the flock much closer to us. Our street homeless arrive through many avenues. Mental illness and drug addiction are primary roots. Brain damage, poor health, lack of social skills, low income, family dysfunction, traumatic stress disorders, bad luck, job loss, ostracization, and the closing of appropriate care facilities, and an inability to make rational choices are all primary roads to chronic homelessness. Rebellious teenagers succumbing to intense peer pressure also fall by the wayside as they are ejected from families. Low self-esteem is another major factor. Opioids, namely fentanyl, a synthetic, cheap, easy-to-make poison, is the biggest cause. Digest this fact. Fentanyl is 10,000 times more addictive than other opioids such as cocaine and heroin. Once a person tries fentanyl once or twice, they are hooked for life. It's almost impossible to quit using. Opioids are euphoric drugs, and users describe their effect as receiving a big hug and that the world cares about them. Coming down from the high is unbearable agony, and users are quick to get another dose. Theft and prostitution are the quickest way to that end. Our team sees many young girls who seem to be from good families become new to the streets and quickly decline into unrecognizable skeletons with bent bodies. The same goes for young men who are lured into crime to maintain their addiction. Every few seasons there is a rotation as entrenched users die off and new ones come to replace them. Here are a few excerpts according to a recent Ottawa Citizen article. In Ottawa, more than 500 people have died from opioid-related overdoses during the past 3 years. Thousands more have survived their overdoses. Survivors suffer hypoxic brain injuries, experiencing trouble with attention, memory, coordination, emotional regulation, decision-making, and problem-solving. Self-awareness can also be affected, making drug users less likely to view their addiction as a problem to be addressed. For those who do seek help, Issues with memory and executive function can make drug rehab extraordinarily difficult. They have trouble with information processing and memory, so 12-step programs like AA and NA generally don't work. Needless to say, drug addiction is a vicious cycle, and along with untreated mental illness, comprise a majority of street homeless in 80 cities. Our mayor and city councilors, along with our city manager and our police chief, all concur that more needs to be done at the street level. As of early this month, there were 3,000 people experiencing homelessness across the city. Referring to municipal data, in addition, 345 people are living unsheltered and not accessing shelter services. This is a record for the city. It increases each year. In partnership with groups from this church, a ministry outreach within Annunciation of the Lord saw Eugene Parabo and I peeling potatoes together while serving on behalf of the parish at the Shepherds of Good Hope. Eugene expressed his dismay at the plight of our MVPs and the lack of directed support from the community here in Ottawa. He admitted his frustration serving in his role as liaison between the Archdiocese and the Multi-Faith Housing Initiative. Nothing is being done for those suffering on the street, he confided. It was a fateful meeting for us both, and I pray for this church as well. I filled Eugene in on the work Good Neighbors does, and that was the exact population we were actively engaged in helping. We formed a partnership and have sought collaborations with many entities, including the Archdiocese, the Mission, the Shepherds, the City of Ottawa, Ottawa Inner City Ministries, tiny cabin community proponents, just to name a few. Eugene joined the Good Neighbors Ottawa team on 2 walks to see the raw situation for himself. We joined forces where we both seek supportive care for MVPs and fast-tracking to a home environment for our street neighbors, while also tending to individual needs on the sidewalks. Eugene has been steadfast and relentless in his efforts to form greater collaborative networks. He has been a success in leading our organization to become organized as a not-for-profit. It's the first major step towards achieving an official charitable status. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge his leadership and great contributions to this success. Our most vulnerable population form a unique segment in our society. Every expert knows that MVPs are extremely hard to help, simply because most refuse help due to mistrust that has developed over the years. It is much easier for organizations to bypass this unique group of individuals and move up the chain for easier pickings and guaranteed funding. As Eugene agrees, this unique segment of the city population has complex and complicated needs. This is largely an unaddressed and painfully non-fitting group in middle-class values and standardized solutions. It has become clear to the entire Good Neighbors team that we are it at this very time. No other entity has gotten as close to our MVPs as we have. We have earned trust and respect from these individuals like no other organizations. We also have realized this is our greatest accomplishment and our greatest tool. Our MVPs are grateful for what we provide. MVPs share that they feel ignored, put down, and shamed by society. We are told time and time again that they value our friendship, that we listen, that we are non-judgmental, and that we truly care and treat every individual as equals. That is profound. We have found the flock and now have been blessed with the trust needed to help each one back. Here's how you and our parish community can help. Let's make Good Neighbors Ottawa a part of our ministry. To paraphrase words from the Knights, the CWL, our clergy, and the Bible, we're all about uniting and making a difference in our community. We're all about protecting the vulnerable. We're all about healing those who suffer. Jesus said, "What you do for the least of my brethren, you do unto me." As last week's sermon went from Father Kevin, sharing what we have with those less fortunate is a heavenly endeavor. I invite you all to put all of these ideals into practice and donate to Good Neighbors. Consider a monthly tithe of any amount paying through an automated e-transfer. We can help set that up for you. Consider contributing items we must purchase: bananas, boxed juice, water, granola bars, plastic baggies. We also need a lot of used grocery bags and clothing. Think about giving some of your time, providing transportation, joining us on walks, or asking those you know to help. Administration, media, canvassing stores and organizations for contributions, storage, baking, making food, passing on leftovers from events, funerals, and weddings. The list is endless, and I'd be delighted to discuss ways that you can be of help. Always think of ways to say yes, rather than taking an easier path to say no. I urge you all to join this noble effort today. Thank you for your time and consideration and allowing me to speak to you all today. As you can see by our slideshow, we are actively engaged at the front line with our most vulnerable population. It's apparent that they are grateful for the care they receive. Many are now willing to help us help them come back to the fold. Again, I thank you all very much for this opportunity, and God bless everyone in this room.
Fantastic job. Fantastic job, Bruce. It's, let me turn this on. I think we lost battery power.
Excuse me.
You wore it out.